Love is hello, hello, hello. The dynamic duo is back.
Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome back to our podcast. This is UNC, Unifying the Nomadic Community slash Visionaries. Visionaries, the mentoring program for young men, young people, old people, you name it, we doing it. Life coaching, um, situation coaching. We deal
Situation.
with a lot of situations from week to week. So this week we decided to name the title Real Life, Real Relationships, and Real Talk. And that's just basically talking about just the communications within relationships and how we don't have them tough conversations at times because we're afraid of the backlash of where it might go. And sometimes it takes you going through serious conversations for y'all can get to a better place because you don't know what the other person feels, you don't know what's on the other person's mind, you're not a mind reader, so it's best if you communicate even with them tough conversations. And me and my wife has been practicing that for the past few months, years or so. I probably initiated it because I'm a talker, but it's getting better. We're getting better. We're learning how to agree to disagree at times, hearing each other and not necessarily disagree, just being able to understand where the other person is coming from. What you think, babe, about the title?
The title, the title is real, real, real. We all have different situations going in our life. But what my husband was stating is that those hard conversations that you're not willing to have, when you're not willing to have those conversations, you usually end up acting them out in your own mind. And what I found out with him and I is that usually we're saying the same thing, but we are coming from two different upbringings. We're coming with different trauma, but the same side effect. Or sometimes it's a different trauma, but we're having the same side effect. And so we only learned those things through having tough conversations that sometimes you have to really go in your corner and say, let me refocus, let me regain my own attention. Sometimes I think in relationships, what we do is we decide to make our spouse our enemy. In reality, we both are broken people. Probably a few weeks ago, I read a lot. I'm on my eighth book right now, you guys. I love to read. And sometimes when I'm reading, it's not necessarily what I'm thinking about or what my spirit is receiving during this quiet time. And a lot of times we are asking, why you didn't do this or you. I decided to take that you and turn it to myself. A lot of times when you're pointing the finger of what someone else is not doing, those are the moments that there's something you could be doing as an individual to make the situation a little lighter, a little easier. I had a real breakthrough. I'm going to share with you guys just a little bit about a testimony we had this week with our son going off to Texas. So I believe that when you're not willing to have those deep, hard conversations, what happens is it's a lot of trauma and hurt that you both are housing in your spirit. So it's blocking the love and the flow of God that He's trying to break through so the two can unite. Most of us stay divided because of how your spouse may be acting. Sometimes I ask myself, okay, if I don't like something, how am I responding? Sometimes I respond with stubbornness, or I would respond with quietness, or, just being what you would call
Mm,
it.
nothing. Learn, Learn how to watch your words. They ask you a question, they really don't want your answer all the time.
Mm,
No, be good.
yeah. See how that is, and that's work. We have to work towards that. But what I'm like, literally, guys, you have to come to a reality of, is my partner? You have to ask yourself a couple of questions. That's what we did. Like, who's gonna have your back like I do? Nobody. Who's gonna have my back like he does? Nobody. So that's a common denominator of, okay, we have a even playing ground of supporting each other, loving each other, taking care of one another. So,
Even when we might not be in the best of places. And that's what you have to remember. You still have a job to do. And
mhm,
that's one of my big statements within our relationship. You know, regardless of what goes on, you still have a job to do. You still have to, just like living your life, you still have utilities, you still have your bills, you still have a mortgage, you still have all these things that still go on during the time that you and your mate might not be getting along.
mhm,
So understanding that you still have to do your part. Don't don't stop doing something, and that's for men and women. Don't stop doing something because you're upset. If you come home and you straighten up and fix your husband some food, or vice versa, I come in. Certain things I like to cook. Certain things my wife likes for me to cook. You know, it's not a gender role when it comes down to us taking care of one another. And that's where I think a lot of conflict comes in at. You know, I
mhm,
heard at times where men feel, some men feel, um, a little belittled if the wife is making or his mate is making more money than he is. And truthfully, you shouldn't either side. I mean, it's supposed to be all for one, one for all. It doesn't supposed to be his and hers or hers and his. You know, I truthfully believe that whoever is, you have two parties. So whoever is better at, just say keeping the bills. Okay, that's your position. You do better. You online. You checking stuff. You making sure stuff is taken care of. And but it's not like you're taking something away from that person because you're doing it better than they are, or you're more attentive to something than the other person. Everybody has their weakness. So that's the thing about being the right type of couple, working at things that both of you gravitate and do well. Everybody's going to do something better than the next person. And it shouldn't be based off of better. It should just be based off of, I'm more attentive to A, B, C, D, and E. You go to my partner house, his wife may be the one that do A, B, C, D. It doesn't matter as long as the job is getting done. But it always should be a process of working together. You know, if I'm on this part, she's on that part. If I'm paying them, she's picking them out. She's putting them together. Okay, this one is due. This one is due. You know, do things in a team effort, and that gives y'all time to communicate. That gives y'all time to talk. That gives y'all time to interact with one another. But
mhm,
when you put it on one person and you're not helping in no type of way, it takes away from that. And you make the other person feels like, well, he's just dumping it off on me, but he goes and watch the game, or she goes and run to the stores, and I'm stuck here. When you do it together, everybody feels a part of the process. And I think that's a good way. We had a couple this week that was just talking to us and basically explaining how some of the things that my wife has spoken to them about, that they had to realize, it takes two people. We
mhm,
can't, like she said, you can't always say you. And the other problem is always saying I. You got two people. She can't be on her soapbox saying it's all about me, and I can't be on my soapbox saying it's all about me. We got children that we're covering, and if we're looking at it from a selfish perspective, then that means we're taking away from the love that we're showing these children. and they're going to have to show their wife that, their children that. We want to reciprocate something that they see, not necessarily just hearing it. And I think that's the proudest moment was dealing with kids. You know, when you get to see their actions, but you haven't said anything. You know, you're teaching through your actions.
Mm-hmm.
And we get away from that because most of the time, husband and wife are so busy in a conflict that, like we said before, one is pulling left, one's pulling right. But when you realize who's coming for y'all, you look back at your history together, and I don't know if it's a year, y'all still in the beginning stages. But when you start hitting them 4 and 5 year marks and 7, 8 year marks, then you can talk. Then you can sit back and say, okay, now we can't just drop the ball because a lot of times you get complacent. And getting complacent is feeling like that's when you get to that place of feeling like me. And your husband is suffering. Your wife is suffering eternally. She's not speaking and telling you what's going on because she's afraid of the conflict that's going to come behind saying, babe, I just need you to give me a hug and a kiss before you leave to work. Oh, that dog, mama. Oh, baby, that dog. You know, I'm trying to get the. All that is unnecessary when all she is trying to do is express her feelings.
That's true. I think what you said about communication, conflict, I find that sometimes men and women they become competitive
Hmm.
about who doing what, and when you have competitiveness, now you're gonna have the conflict, the
That's a
chaos.
problem
Now you have created an atmosphere where no one can thrive.
because you're too busy competing.
You're too busy competing. Okay, like you
I
wrong.
want to win. I want to win.
In
You both
reality,
losing.
that's the key because when you start to look at yourself in the image of God, and this is something I want to strongly address, is that most people who get married, you have to always remember that your marriage and your commitment is to God first. And so if you keep him in the center of it, it's going to cause you to take some of the heat off your spouse because we're all imperfect. We are beyond being perfect, but understanding that I have to treat you in a way that is allowing God to use me. A lot of times we allow God to use us for everybody else, but our spouse, and they are our direct contact to being replenished. And sometimes, as partners, we got to make sure that we're not allowing our partner to be empty. It's our job to make sure, you know,
Or drowning.
drowning. Because sometimes, if you're drowning and your lifeguard is not nowhere to be
Oh,
found,
job.
it's almost like, and this is something I want to talk about as far as me feeling like I was drowning this week. Our son went off to Texas. He had so many issues from flight cancellation to getting out there, no power, no rental car, phone about to die, you 13 hours away. And then that day, it was one, like from the moment he left, it was chaotic. And so I pushed past how I felt to walk in my spirit and, try to trust in what I knew to trust in, which is allowing God to do his thing. But as the day went on, my spirit felt so perplexed. Like I felt fear, I felt anxiety, I felt anxious, I felt all these things that normally I don't feel in a time of turbulence. I usually, I'm good. I can keep it moving no matter what. I can mess up a whole day and keep it moving. But this day I just couldn't shake it. I just felt like I couldn't explain it. And so as I progressed through the day, I took a shower, I tried to lay down, but I was so heavy. I could not even lay down in my bed. It was like I had to sit up because I felt this tug of war going on between my flesh and my spirit. My flesh was concerned about my son, and I had fear if something goes wrong, but my spirit kept telling me to be anxious for nothing, to worry about something doesn't fix it. And so I was literally drowning in my own mind battles. And we talked about battles last week. So I reached out to my husband and I said, babe, I said, I'm struggling. I said, I need you to pray for me. And that was a moment that was a breakthrough for me, being a wife, having a husband that I know covers me in prayer, who I know watches over me. But as his wife, sometimes I don't reach out to him in need because he already do so much more. But I realize that's what he's here for me not to go through those mind battles and get stuck. And then
alone.
I'm alone. And then what he ends up getting is the side effects of my frustration, my uncertainty of what I'm dealing with a situation because he felt some kind of way too. But I couldn't shake it. And so, of course, he laid his hand. He didn't say much. I felt him lay his hand on my hip or my stomach, and I drifted off to sleep. So when I fall asleep, I had this terrible dream. And when I woke up, I was like, God, why am I feeling like this? I know you. I'm not an anxious person. I'm not fearful. And the Holy Spirit said, some people live like this every day. And so I'm like, whew. I got in the shower and I was just meditating and thanking God that I had woke up. And God said, I had to allow you to feel like that so you can understand when others go through it. Sometimes when you don't go through certain things, you get so comfortable in the way that you think that life is going to present itself to you every day. I'm pretty cool, laid back. You can't really ruffle my feathers too much. No matter what goes on, I'm gonna be in here keeping it moving, washing clothes. I'm just constantly moving. But this day, I felt paralyzed. But even in the midst of that, I could not deal with the stuff that was happening. I had to deal with myself. I had to pay attention to my thoughts. I had to take my thoughts and then I had to express them with my husband. And this is something I'm learning to do because when you handle a lot of stuff and you don't handle yourself correctly, now you're making a mess. As women, we are nurturers and sometimes we nurture negative emotions. We nurture fear because we feel like we can control it or we can fix it or we can think our way through it. But in reality, don't isolate your husband from the task that God gave him. We discussed this where men have been taught to provide and protect, but that's the biggest problem of leaving out prayer. It
But
should be.
you have to be the minister to your wife. You
Mhm.
have to be the minister to your family.
Mhm.
You have to be the person that they're able to talk to, and you're able to give them some wise counsel.
Mhm.
As a husband and as a father, as the head, you got to be able to calm your mate down. You got to
Mhm.
be able to speak peace into their spirit, and that comes from digging deep inside of yourself. God created us in His image, so that means we have that ability to relax and send your mind somewhere else. That mind battle that you're going through, that's only something that's trying to pull you away from the spirit that you know you possess. It's taking you away from that confidence. It's
Mhm.
taking they putting the insecurities into your mind. So now you're pulling away from the positive, and all you can think about is what's going on, without realizing that everything that happens is done for our good. So
Mhm.
every situation that he faced on this trip was teaching him, was
Mhm.
strengthening him,
Mhm.
creating something in him to realize that even through all the adversities, I have to fight back. I can't lay down.
Mhm.
I got to get on my phone. I got to, if I have to walk down here and plug my phone up to inside of a store and stand there while I charge. I have to keep moving forward because this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm God's creation.
Mhm.
We don't lay down. That's not an option. So he continued to move on through, and everything started to fall in place. And the
Mhm.
crazy thing about it is, I'm not that boisterous when situations occur. I get quiet, and I do a lot of self prayer. Everybody be asking people, and I notice every time you look up, somebody's asking someone to pray. But I'm a I'm a prime example of a person that literally, my belief is, who's better to represent me than me? So who's better to speak to God on my behalf than me? He wants my conversation. He wants me to dive deeper into myself and pull out what he's already invested in me. Everything that I need is inside of me. All this courage, all this fight back that we have, he already invested that in me. We tend to forget that we have these qualities, so we allow the insecurities to attach itself to us, and now we're believing what we're hearing. You know, a lot of time that little mimicking voice that's in your mind that's saying you can't do something, you're weak, you're not strong, you ain't gonna be able to do it. That's just that sound coming from society that we've been prone to hear. You
Mhm.
know, growing and living in America, just everything that you get in, most of the time you get negative conversation. So now you allowing that to attach itself to you. So you're not doing the things you need to do. I feel that way on occasions as well. Just because we're on here trying to give our side or tell you how things go on in our lives, don't misunderstand that we have, my wife is telling you about a battle she had.
Mhm.
So all these podcasts that we're trying to send out and help people, we want people to get better. We want you to dive deeper into a place where you can console some of the things that you're dealing with without substance, without having to take something to calm you down, having to go and get something out the cabinet or get your. You have to learn how to calm down some of these voices, because if not, it takes you away from all the things that God has planned for you.
Mhm.
And that's the biggest key. Staying on point.
Okay.
Whatever she was dealing with that day, I'm right there with her. Don't worry about it. I got you. He's gonna be all right. God sent somebody. He gets in the Uber. The guy that's driving is from New Jersey. He's playing the same music that I play. I love my house music. He's playing house music. Literally, what's the chances for him to be, you know, thousands of miles away, and the driver that picks him up is playing the music that his pops listen to, and then he tells him, he said, we have to take care of one another. Us
Mhm.
kindred spirits, we have to look out for one another. If
Mhm.
you need me, call me. Here go my personal number. What's the chances?
Mhm.
Let's stop minimizing God's power. Let's stop minimizing the power that we have to speak life into situations and not speak death. When we start doubting and start getting fearful, now we're taking the power away from what we know we have. You
Mhm.
gotta speak life, even when it's not going good. Today was a off and on day for me. I had to remember, just because it's not happening on my time is not the most important time. It's what he has for me. And if I've already surrendered myself to be the servant, then I have to stand and wait till he give me the direction and the order. But I
Mhm.
gotta stay humble enough so I can hear it. I gotta shut my mouth, shut my mind, and start listening to what I'm being told through the spirit. I have to be guided and led. Everyone speaks about God, but I don't think we take it into consideration that to be created, to be a human being, that's an amazing feat. No one has reproduced this product
Mhm.
naturally. So we can't trust him with the smallest task. If you can make a human being, how powerful are you? So this
Mhm.
little stuff that we're dealing with is minor. I can drop somebody right there and pick him up, and now he's looking at a man in the front seat. He said to me, "Pops," he said, "the crazy thing about it is he looked like you." He said he looked like you when you had dreads.
Mhm.
I said, that's that love of God that we pay attention to. We fight for. We love through it. We pray through it. So when something goes on with our boys, with our children, he lets us know. That's that hug. He just gave my wife that hug when Shank called and said, Mom, you'll never believe what happened.
He's like,
He got excited
he was like,
even in the midst of his turmoil.
and that's something I want you to think about. I wrote down in my journal. I told y'all to get. I hope y'all got this journal. Y'all got a journal. Mine said, "I'm thankful for it all." That's what mine says. I'm thankful for it all. And when he said, "God is so mysterious, Mom," and in that moment,
Hmm.
I had experienced pain and peace at the same time. I didn't even know it was possible because I was paralyzed, y'all. But hearing,
But it wasn't. You wasn't.
but before he called me, I was feeling paralyzed because I'm thinking if he don't get a room, we about to get on this highway. So when I'm going through things, I started thinking about, the things Shank was telling me, and I knew because we was gonna go, but we wasn't able to go. And so in my spirit, before he left, I said, God wants him to go by himself. I said he want to introduce you to him past college. And so once he left and things started to happen, when things are happening to our children, we want to swoop in and be the savior. But when
You
you
can't.
are allowing God to direct your life, you can recognize them, you can trace them when things start looking different. But you have to step aside and allow His process and His will to be done. Lord, let your will be done, not my will, not my husband's will.
Because we
Because
gonna mess it up.
if it was
Bottom
our
line,
will,
we gonna mess it up.
we would not allow our children to endure anything
We gonna
that
mess it
is
up.
necessary. And so I was talking to Shank, and I was talking about how good God has been through to me through my life. And I said, I heard someone say, we was talking on the phone, and it was like, well, if I knew what I knew then, I would do my life differently. And so don't ask me how that conversation came back to my mind a week later in the midst of all of this. And I thought about if I could rewrite my life, would I? And I'm like, where this coming from? I'm middle this week is crazy. And I was thinking about that I wouldn't rewrite my life. If I knew what I knew now, it wouldn't make a difference. In reality, if I would rewrite my life, it would take away all the blessings God has given me. It would take away all the chances He's given me, all the mercy He has given me. So
All them times you
all the
got to
time
see.
to see His hand on my life. So sometimes when you're dealing with a difficult time in life, don't feel like you could have did something differently. Whether you could or you couldn't, you can't erase what God has ordained for your life. And sometimes we derail our own ways, but He has a way of getting us back. When I tell you life is so real, I know we're on this podcast doing it, but trust me, I want you to be a realist about any situation that you're dealing with. God said, for those who will seek me, they shall find me. Don't dumb God down to that you're just looking for him on social media. You're just looking at for him in every church service. You're looking for him in
Because you're
all
looking
the
at them in the wrong
you're looking
places.
you're looking for him in all the wrong
He's in
places.
here. He's
And
inside of you.
in reality, when you look for him in the wrong places, it's not that he's not showing up. It's like he's not gonna compete with technology. He don't have to.
And not just that, we tend to forget he made us, so he is inside of us. Just like our children. Our children are made through us. How can our children be made through us, but they have no inkling of image of who we are? They're a part of us. Every child, you have to look at, that's me right there. When they do something, yep, that's me. You can pinpoint the things when your child is doing good, when your child is doing bad, when he's doing this. You can always look and say, that's that's me right there. He got me 100%. But we don't see that same, we don't understand that same mathematics when it comes down to God. God has been stored inside of us to the point that everything else around us pulls us away from ourselves. And that's where that self care comes in at too. Because if you take your time and taking care of yourself and your temple, that's a part of loving on God, loving on yourself, loving on your family, being loving. My wife talks about the um, her journal, and while she be journaling, I'm on a whole nother mission, but it's a different type of mission. I'm trying to learn how not to be offended. I'm trying to learn how not to be. You don't have to have your voice and your opinion in every conversation, because a lot of times that conflict is not a part of what God has for us. So just with that communication that goes off track and you say something out of impulse, now you've created friction within your relationship when you could have kept it to yourself. Some things doesn't have to be said. Allow God to do his work through you. And
Mm-hmm.
that means being obedient to the will of what's inside. We fight against that internal. It's something just like a woman. They say, a woman has that sixth sense. They know when something going on with their husband. They know when something ain't right. You know what I mean?
Discernment.
That's that discernment that God has bestowed inside of us. And the only reason why we have it is because it's inside of us. We have that stomach bubbling. Something's not right today. Something's going on. Something I can't put my hand on it, but there's something's not right. Learning how to pay attention to that discernment, learning how to take it and control it to the point where now I can move forward in helping my wife when she's struggling. Now I can see my son struggling over here, but he doesn't even know how to communicate it. When you're 16, 15, they don't know how to communicate it. The baby boy have a lot of friends that he deals with, and they're dealing with things. And from his viewpoint, he can detect where they're going wrong. From their viewpoint, they see him as somebody that doesn't understand, and you don't know what it is, and you're this and you're that. But instead of looking at him as somebody that's helping advise me, somebody God has, but most of these kids have not had that type of relationship with anybody, male, female, mother, father, grandparents. Everybody is so caught up in their own world that they're tending to forget about the ones that's in need and the ones that's struggling. And that's a part of being able to have the real life situation, being
Mm-hmm.
able to have real relationships, and being able to talk about the real things that creates love and balance. That's
Mm-hmm.
the key, having a balance and structure and foundation within your home, within your family, within your friendships. We tend to lose all that because we're so focused on, once again, I. We are the most selfish people in the world
Mm-hmm.
because everything is about us. We won't even compromise. Now you're married, you've been together for years, but you're not willing to compromise, and that doesn't mean giving in. That means compromising. That means we're going to come to a solution that benefits both of us,
Mm-hmm.
not just you, not just me. And sometimes it may be just for her. Maybe that day when she's not feeling up to it, maybe that's that day I got to give her that grace to say, you know what will God do for me? How many times have I been dysfunctional and out of control that he gave me a pass?
Mm-hmm.
Because any type of way you make it past these things, you have to say, I've received that grace that I'm refusing to give someone else.
Mm-hmm. We make ourselves God. We make ourselves idols because we all have been guilty of it. Not just I'm saying
Hmm.
you.
Hmm.
I'm talking about me. I'm talking about my husband. I'm talking about my children. Where sometimes we can't see for looking. My husband talking about discernment. A lot of people don't even understand what discernment is because they're not seeking to know to learn what it is. Some people have never experienced some of the things that children of God has. It's not that you can't, it's just that you're not applying yourself. And even those who know God, it's a struggle. Trust me, like you're never gonna get to the point of your life where you feel like I'm good, I got it made. Because whenever you get to that point, trust me, God will break you down to keep rebuilding you. I think a lot of times people don't realize that we need one another. We need to bear one another's burdens. We need to uplift each other. But now in society, it's all about ourselves. In reality, when you got good friends, you got good family members. Yes, we all get on each other's nerves, but I think if we humble ourselves, and when you humble yourself, you're able to see that I'm frustrated because I was frustrated before this person got here. When I woke up the day Shank left, I promise you, I was in the kitchen and I just felt off. And I was talking to myself. I said, you seem a lot off this morning. And my spirit said, I want you to pay attention to that today. So I knew that I had to guard my mind and muzzle my mouth. It wasn't that something was bothering me. I woke up already, you know, feeling perplexed from that morning. And so what I decided to do was dig deep within myself. I couldn't have a pity party because I don't show up to pity parties, nor do I want nobody to show up to mine. So I
Yeah,
really
we
don't.
do sometimes. We
Yeah, I
do
mean, like
sometimes.
when
We do.
I'm
Everybody wants that
you want
special
attention,
attention
but
sometimes.
you're not gonna let me stay in a pity party when it's just me feeling sorry for myself. It's not too
Yeah,
many
but we
days.
don't feel sorry for
Yeah, that's
yourself
what
too
I'm
many.
like. But it was just one of those days where I knew I couldn't stay in my emotional state because it wasn't going to help me get through the week. I understood that I had to accept how I felt because sometimes as women and men, we hide how we feel because we feel like nobody don't understand or nobody don't care. And so what
But a
you
lot of
do
times
is
you're not giving them a
you're
chance.
not giving them a chance. And so, and another situation that happened was I was outside and I said, I was thinking, Shanka's about to leave, and I feel a little bothered. That's my first thought. And my second thought was say something to my husband, but then the alter ego was like, well, he gonna be like, well, don't worry about it, ain't that wrong. And my other side was like, well, I don't want to hear. That's not the answer I want to hear.
See,
And
that's the
then,
thing too. A lot of times you want somebody to jump on that bandwagon with you,
yeah,
and I'm not the one. I want to pull you out. I want
yeah.
to save. I
So
don't
I
want
didn't
us
want
to
to be saved.
sink with the ship. Let the ship go down. We're gonna get out and swim.
I didn't want to be saved. So God was showing me I had four conversations going on with myself where I had eliminated my husband from the whole
Hmm.
conversation. I got she, me, and her. I don't know who's gonna show up from time to time. Like he got a wife, girlfriend, and mistress, and it's one person. If that's just me, I'm just telling
That's how I be
you.
telling people. My brother and them talk about man, side chick and messing around. Listen, I got three people at the house. I don't know who I'm going home to.
Hey,
Only thing I do know,
she at home.
she ain't gonna be raising hell. She don't do no raising hell. But I might come into somebody that skits it.
And but that's me. So the more that I want to help myself, the more I'm going to be able to help my marriage and be a better mother, sister, friend, and wife. Because I noticed I had all this brain chatter going on in my mind. So now, women, when things are going on, you know, take that time to accept how you feel, even if it's right or wrong, even if you feel like, oh, ain't nothing gonna happen, but for that moment, you got to be gentle with yourself because a lot of times as women, we're not gentle with ourselves. And then when our husbands are not reciprocating that to us, but we never show any signs of that type of vulnerability. Like for me to tell my husband I needed him and I'm feeling weak, that was big for me because I really have suffered sometimes unnecessarily just because I don't want to bother him or I don't want him to say something I don't want to hear.
And
We
this
have
has been
control issues.
this has been something we've had to work on because that was something that I expressed to my wife years ago. Is how can I help if I don't know what's going on? And a lot of times we get upset with the other person because we feel like they're not doing enough and you're not
Mhm.
understanding and you're not being there for me.
Mhm.
And but they don't know what's going on.
Mhm.
Us as men, we're different. We're different from you as a woman.
Very.
So with us being who we were created to be, it's not that we're doing it purposely. We're being who we was created to be, and a lot of times that we don't have that sixth sense like a
Mhm.
woman. Sometimes a woman can detect and say, "Oh, my husband is feeling some type of way,"
Mhm.
but that we don't have that quality all the time. So as men, I advise us to be more attentive,
Mhm.
be more concerning. When you see, if we can tell, but you have to pay attention. We got to get out of our own way to be able to pay attention to one another so we're able to grow as a unit. When she's struggling, I have to understand that me telling her, babe, chill out, is not gonna do it. She
Mhm.
needs that. It's gonna be okay. Even my mind, I'm always that optimistic. You can tell, person can tell me they said I got 2 months to live, and I'm gonna say, you know what? They can't tell you that. No one can tell you how much time you have left. You have to. That's God's job. When He
Mhm.
stops your when your time is up, your time is up, and nobody has that power to tell you that. As a doctor, they're testing. They're
Mhm.
they're they're experimenting on you. But when you don't know where you come from and what you are, and that's been a big problem for us as Black people. We struggle to know who we are because we've been stripped of everything. And the biggest thing we've been stripped of is our identity to God. That has been giving. Everything has been given to us to believe in. We don't have that choice to decide to say, I'm not going to follow a religion. I'm going to get into a meditative state. I'm going to get into a praying state, and I'm going to talk and communicate to what created me. I don't want to give you a title or a name. We give more praise to the name Jesus than we do to God. We're not representing what created everything. We can't give more praise to something than we do who the reason why we're here. We don't know how we got here. Chemicals, dirt, water. We're made up of water pretty much.
One thing I will say, when we're talking about religion and we're talking about meditation, I feel like one shoe don't fit all. Whatever works for you to be a better person, but the key thing of it is self-awareness. Because sometimes we hide behind religion, we hide behind praise. We can praise God and be the devil at the same time. Like we have to come to that place, something that we all need. We don't need more churches. We don't need more buildings.
We need more
We
love
don't need more money. We need more love. It's so many people depleted from love.
because we're not pouring into
We're
each
not
other,
pouring, but we're not gonna say that we have been taught as a people how to do it right.
Mm-mm.
So
Especially not
now,
for each other.
it's our responsibility to say, you know what, like me, you can, people that know me, for those who don't know me, I am an old fashioned person when it comes to, you can't really text me a lot because I want to talk to you. I want to hear your voice. I want to see what's up. If you off and your spirit is telling me I can feel you, I'm gonna pop up on you. I'm gonna let you know because we're losing that human connection through social media and
Mhm.
phone and texting. That's why the spirit of God is not felt as much because everybody is behaving in the same manner. There's no separation from God's people versus this type of people to that type of people. We're all starting to look the same, but the
And
thing about
behavior.
it, we're looking the same, but we can't make the same type of change. I've been thinking about, because I'm a word person, I was thinking about chance, change, and choices. When my husband said choices, I started smiling because our minds are so connected in ways that we don't even understand at times. You know, we have so many things going on in our mind. We have so many things that are pulling from us that until we look at all the things that we're enduring on a daily basis, we must understand that we have to really take the time, reflect, be thankful. Like I say, I've wrote so much in my thankful book because I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to ask somebody or advise somebody to do something that is powerful that can change their life, but I ignore it because I feel like, oh, I got my husband, oh, I got a good. No, I'm never above reproach. And one thing that stuck out to me is that I don't know, I cried one day and I thank God for my tears for being to be faithful to me to give me relief for unexplained emotions that I deal with. Sometimes I cry from laughter, from happiness, sometimes I cry from sadness, but I never been thankful for tears because tears have released some of that that word you can't
It's
say.
cleansing.
It's a cleansing. It's more of a detox of your
Hmm.
body, but I can depend on when I feel some kind of way. Because I truly believe when I cry, God knows. He don't like me to cry. Trust me. He doesn't, it's like when you cry just a little, it's almost like you can feel him get close to you and bring you relief. Sometimes we get so far down in the hole that don't ever feel like God can't reach you. But that goes back to what I was saying last week. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that believe. You can't believe in what you see because if you believe only in what you see, you can't rock with me. Because what we're seeing in this day and time,
It's turmoil.
it would make you lose your mind. Okay?
And that's why so many of us are struggling because we're so caught up with everyday life. We
Mhm,
want to have this, we want every single thing, but that doesn't bring you peace.
mhm,
That's not soothing your spirit and your soul because your flesh is constantly gravitating towards things that's
mhm,
not going to benefit you. I'm listening to a guy I spoke on before, Wayne Dyer, and he speaks a lot about dismissing and cutting off some of the ties. We're tied to everything.
mhm,
We're controlled by everything. We're not living our best life. And one of his statements is, "Don't die with your song still in you." And that's
mhm,
just truly meaning, let it out. Let your song live. Let your voice ring out. Don't leave this earth with your song buried inside of you, and it's something that you're fighting and wanting to do. You live that. You do that. Anything that you want, you can change from that person to say, "I'm this street guy and I'm this and I'm that." You can change that. You can go to prison and come. I can change that. I can be addicted to drugs. I can change this.
mhm,
Everything that you want in your life, you have the ability to change it. Stop blaming your past.
mhm.
Stop looking at your past. Stop equating your life to what you've been through. Because the only thing that does is take away from the lesson.
So right
It's
now.
a teaching. You're being tested. You're being taught. You're in class. Life is nothing but a class. And you have to take every lesson and get prepared for that final exam. And that final exam is you're serving. You getting to a place that you're a giver. You're
Mhm,
giving of yourself. You don't have to give away your money every time someone calls you. Give them some energy and some knowledge and some information that's going to benefit them spiritually, enrich their soul. We're not pouring back into one another.
mhm,
We drink all the orange juice. With a Friday, who left the last sip of orange juice? You drink up all the orange juice,
mhm.
but you don't go and buy no more. You eat up all the food, but you don't replenish. And that's what the world needs is replenishing
Pouring
from
in
one
each other.
another. We have to learn and get to a place of loving one another
Mhm,
instead of killing and taking away from each other. My wife can't be her best her if I'm not pouring into her. If I got up the other morning, I had to kiss her on the forehead just to let her know certain things that I'm constantly actively trying to give her the best part of me. And that's she deserves it. Why? Because she's a child of God. I deserve it. Why? Because I'm a child of God. We deserve to give each other the best part of us.
Mhm.
Why should the best part die with us?
Mhm.
We hold on to it because we're so prideful.
Mhm.
Ego, edging God out. Every
Mhm.
time we have our ego takes control, we takes away from God's mission. We takes away from God what God has instilled inside of us,
Mhm.
and that's that pride. I'm too prideful to go in here and call my wife and say, "Babe, we forgot to pray this morning."
Mhm.
Even though put a little with a disclaimer out there. I called today from my other phone and she ain't know the number, I guess, or didn't recognize the number, so she ain't answer.
Mhm.
So by the time she called back, that's what I was supposed to be saying. When I said I was supposed to do so, I kept saying, I was like, I was calling you for something, but I done forgot. And she was
Totally
like,
forgot.
"Do you think it's this?" I was like, "No, that ain't it." "Well, did you supposed to do this?" I said, "No, that ain't it." So whatever it was, that's what it was. I was
Wow.
calling back to pray for my family this morning because I got up and started moving. And God even showed me even with that.
Yeah. Because one thing about us though, we always keeping each other, and so earlier this week, my husband was talking about, just not being in a rush. You don't have nowhere to be. You have to remind yourself. So this morning, we've been up to like 2:30. Oh, she don't roll like that. He be asleep. My baby, we out going to Charlotte. I'm like this. I'm driving down the road like this. I can't blink. I'm so sleepy. And so when we woke up this morning, he was like, I gotta go. I gotta go. And I said, well, I thought you didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't think you had to be anywhere,
And I didn't catch it. It didn't click.
but your spirit relaxed.
Hmm.
And so I was like, that's one thing. Men, I'm gonna tell y'all. I'm gonna tell you how to win now. When you are a leader of your household and you take ownership to teach your family, it's gonna come back to you in the days that you need your teachings. And men, you're gonna receive it because it came from you. It's hard for men to receive other information from outside sources. So when your wife is going to
Like
church,
other men.
yeah, like other
It's
men,
hard
church,
for us to
but
tell each
but
other
but
stuff.
but in reality, when you do your job, it's not so offensive
You're
because
going to hear it.
you're gonna hear your own words coming back to you.
Hmm.
It's gonna be like that circle that we keep talking about.
Hmm.
Don't
360.
don't complain about what she's doing or what she's
Universal
not
love.
doing when you're allowing her to drown. You have to be her cheerleader because trust me, as women who love their family, we're pouring out everything we have. And who else is gonna pour back in? Nobody. God is not gonna allow somebody else to pour into something that He created between two people. Like I said, when we first got started, a lot of us get married and we forget about God. Our vows is just not, my vows is not just to Him. My
And I
vows is unto God.
and my vows is to the commitment to what we creating, and that's the key. We put everything is what we were given instead of the worship being we can come together and submit to God under this roof and say, I'm going to be committed and dedicated to you, because not because of the laws stated this, but because my commitment and my honor to you is the enrichment of you. If I'm coming into your life and I'm not bringing something to uplift and enrich your life, then I'm a discredit to who you are. I'm a discredit to the creation. We
Mhm.
we both supposed to bring something that enriches one another. That's why he puts us here in couples. That's why we're here
And
in twos.
twos, because one is gonna get tired.
It's
Trust me.
always it's never 50-50. I never understood
Uh-uh.
the 50-50.
I had
You
that conversation today with some people that came over today and they were talking about 50-50. And I'm like, well, I don't feel like 50-50 is good enough. I think we're 100-100. We are two individual people because at times, I know when my dad died, I was probably about a 5. And when my mother-in-law passed, my husband was about a 20. So I was on something. Like the dog was breaking out, running game on me. I couldn't get the fence when his knee was messed up. The dog took total advantage of me. But I was out there trying to lock the fence, do his chores, and do mine. So when the shift happens,
You got to be
You got to be
prepared.
able to be what it
You got
is.
to be
You
able to
can't,
rock.
don't ever, and I'm saying this for women and men, be so mindful how you talk to one another. Never humiliate each other because I promise you it'll come back to bite you because all that stuff you're sowing into them. Trust me, we all reap what we sow. I don't care who you is, whether it's biblical, Muslim, science, you reap what you sow. And what happens is we get so far down the line of life and then we start reaping some of the benefits that are nasty and ugly. Now
And
we're
now
in shock.
we're
Like,
giving
oh
them
my
off.
God, God, why are you doing this to
And
me?
then we start giving them away to others like it's a free meal. You know what I mean? We start dishing
I'm
it
telling
out to
you,
other people that don't even deserve it. And that's where we start messing up at
that's that.
because we're supposed to stay in the place of love.
Hmm.
We're losing. I'm tearing her. What do you want with somebody that you done tore apart?
It's nothing. When I tell you, I
There's
have
nothing left there.
had situations, I promise you guys, like, as soon as it happened, I knew where I got it from. I can remember me being that same way towards somebody.
Like my wife saying that time with Pops passing and my mother passing, I told her one day, I said, as long as I'm getting up, I'm good. And that's something that I remember. And that's what I told her. When I seen her going down to the point where you not moving, long as you're moving,
Hmm.
I'm okay. Because I know you're fighting. I
Hmm.
know that spirit is actively moving. Okay, I don't feel good. I'm hurting. I'm mourning, but I'm gonna get up and take a shower.
Hmm.
I'm gonna get up and go in here and get me a cup of tea. I'm gonna take a walk. I'm hurting, but I can't lay down
Hmm.
because as much as we miss the person that left, we still have an obligation to one another. And I
Hmm.
had to tell my wife, don't check out on me.
Hmm.
I don't take on that position like you don't want to be here because even though you're saying no, that's not it, but it gets to that place when you constantly revisiting that hurt and that pain
Hmm.
instead
Hmm.
of remembering all the things that I was taught, all the things that they gave me, and they're still with me. Because we don't see you physically, we haven't never seen God, but we are so committed to God that's the same feeling we're supposed to have. I think that's the teachings.
Hmm.
That's how we're supposed to be when someone leaves. Because you have to say, if God has the power to put an Uber driver to pick my son up that looks like me, playing music like me, and from Jersey like me, how doesn't we have that power to love one another, pick one
Hmm.
another up, lift one another, and keep remembering that even in my absence, I still got you.
I'm going to
I
represent you.
still got you. We got 1 minute. We don't want to get caught up because
I
we
think it's going
can't.
to be a part two to this
It is going to be a
because
part two.
I'm telling you, it gets real, but don't throw your love away. I was listening to a song and my husband was talking about
My singing voice,
singing voice.
I'm
He
fighting.
pumping me up, y'all, because he just y'all seen him do this commercial about singing and not let your music die in you.
I,
So now you don't cause the problem. But
I
I
wasn't
want
talking about
he
her.
was talking
I
about me,
wasn't talking
y'all.
about you. I wasn't talking
He was
about
talking
you.
about me, but I want to say this. I want to challenge you to be sweeter tomorrow than you was today. That's
Love
what I've
more,
been.
love more. Don't forget to take care of one another.
Like and subscribe. Check us out.
Part two. We coming at you.
Peace.